This is we call the new philanthropy era, beginning on the 2008.
Based on their interests, we get them specialized teachers to hone their skills. And many times this skill become their life-sustaining skills.
This is the first law of philanthropy.
What I want to do is to make everybody on board, especially our second generation. I'm urging to saving the world.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Crossover. I'm Yi Yi Xu in Beijing with once again my terrific guest host Tian Ran.
Happy to be here as always.
Thank you for being by my side and, you know, have my
Helping
back again. So philanthropy in China is something that has just starting to develop but has been gaining some tremendous momentum.
And today we have some great guests with us. They are really the forerunners of the charitable movement here in China, fantastic philanthropists who are going to tell us a bit more about the story of charity in China.
Yes, but before we introduce our first guest, let's first take a look at one of China's most impactful nonprofit organizations for children.
Children deprived of love have smaller brains, weaker bodies, are prone to illness. If such a child survives, and so basic is the need for love that many do not, if such a child survives, she will struggle to learn, struggle to make friends. She may never know happiness. We learned that in 1997, almost by accident, when my husband Richard and I brought our little daughter Maya home from an orphanage in China. Maya had never known love or what it felt like to matter to another human being. You could see it in her face. But when she felt the love of family and began to trust that it was hers forever, our little girl blossomed. I just knew that if loving family-like care could be given to children living in Chinese government welfare institutions, those children would also thrive. And so, along with other adoptive families and new friends I found in China, I created Half the Sky. Half the Sky is everyday proof that nannies don't need to be biologically related to the children in their care to create the nurturing environment that allows infants and toddlers to develop trust and self-confidence. And today, Half the Sky's new Chinese sister organization, Chunhui Children's Foundation, is beginning to spread its wings. We're working together to train every single child welfare worker in China, enabling Chinese citizens for the first time to contribute to the welfare of the country's most vulnerable children.
This is a story about the power of love, and our first guest today is the CEO of Chunhui Children, Cindy Lin. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us more about the program, Chunhui Children.
Sure. Inherited from Half the Sky Foundation, we are a locally registered not-for-profit foundation 3 years ago. And our goal is to professionally train caregivers who go into orphanages day in and day out consistently caring for the orphans inside those institutions. And those children do call them and treat them like their own moms and dads. That's what we do.
Joining us also in the studio is the chairman of Chunhui Children, Mr. Wang Zhenyao.
Pleasure to meet you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
You see each other all the time.
Thank you for joining us on Crossover, Dean Wang.
Thank you.
Dean Wang, I'd actually really like to start with you. So we were talking about philanthropy earlier and how it's kind of in its early stages in China. Could you tell us a bit more about how philanthropy started here?
Actually, in 1981, China established the first foundation named the China Children and Teenagers Foundation. Then it's following that just step by step, very slowly. Then it's the big beginning is in 2005. That time, it's a state council very openly announced Chinese government will support the philanthropy.
Right.
This is a policy change. But after that, 2008, because of Wenchuan earthquake, then whole Chinese people, I think all of us mobilized.
Right, there's an outpouring of giving. Just the regular person wanted to give.
Then this is we call it the new philanthropy era, beginning on the 2008.
Right. Now, Tianran mentioned you were the chairman of Chunhui Children. Cindy, how did Dean Wang get involved with Chunhui Children?
I think he will be the best person to answer. but as far as we know, he is the founding father for our organization to be able to locally register here in China.
You heard about Chunhui Children and these orphanages and what they needed. What touched you about this program?
Actually, that time I worked in the Ministry of Civil Affairs as a Director General in charge of the children affairs and philanthropy. When I met, half the SCAS leader, that
Jenny.
Jenny Bowen. Then I followed her, visited child welfare institution. Jenny's program totally changed our imagination. Then we know not only love, what about the professional love? This is very, very important.
Right. It's not only about a mother's love. You have the Chunhui mamas. But it's about professionalizing it and making it very systematic.
Right. We deliver the love scientifically, systemically, and sustainably.
You've brought some paintings that some of the Chunhui children have done for you. Can you share those with us?
Sure.
Wow,
These are
beautiful.
all artwork done by children in our Chunhui Youth Program. And
Look at
That
this.
is amazing.
And most of these children are all special needs children.
Right.
And in our youth program, we help children between 7 to 18 years of age to first and foremost know who they are, know what they like. Based on their interests, we get them specialized teachers to hone their skills. And many times this skill become their life-sustaining skills.
So that they can contribute to society.
Absolutely.
And that's the greatest self-confidence builder that there could be, right? So they can feel useful.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's wonderful.
Right.
Dean Wang, I know aside from being chairman of Chunhui Children, you have many different roles. And one is director of the China Philanthropy Research Institute, and it's now become the China Global Philanthropy Institute. Can you tell me about what you do in that regard?
It's, 6 years ago, I left the government, established we call the CPRI. CPRI like a think tank, research about children, about elder people's care, about the philanthropy. Actually, we do a lot of programs, do the consulting to government, to training program, to foundation, to NGO leaders. Not only this, CPRI was also deeply involved in the drafting philanthropy law.
Right.
Of China,
And there's a new law that's going to be enacted in September of this year. This was a result of the political conferences just in March of 2016. There will be a new China philanthropy law.
Actually, the first.
It'll be the first one.
After 1949. This is the first law of philanthropy.
Right. What is the law about?
This law is a big beginning, actually. We changed our philanthropy idea. At the beginning, we just believe philanthropy just is a charity. You just give poor people food, money, or something. But this law, changed the big fundamental concept. We call it big philanthropy, not just small philanthropy. That means including the education, culture, and a lot of things. The law asks developers the philanthropy service, That means we'll improve our organization, encourage them, developing different kinds of social service. That means maybe in the future, philanthropy in China will be like American, like a European, like an enterprise. Create maybe about 5% GDP. This is a big enterprise.
Basically, the work that you do, and plus this new act that will be instated in September, will create a very legitimate platform and foundation for all philanthropic effort throughout China, whether it's for a nonprofit organization to receive money, but also for families or private donors to give money. It's a wonderful step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
You had mentioned that there has been some influence from the West. You mentioned Bill Gates, and I know there have been also some very influential families who have worked side by side with you to establish the China Global Philanthropy Institute. I know Bill Gates was here, and Ray Dalio was here for the opening last year in 2015. We were very lucky because I got to sit down and talk to Ray Dalio, who has been involved in Chinese philanthropy for decades. Let's hear what he had to say. Mr. Dalio, thank you so much for joining us on Crossover today.
My pleasure.
Now, I know you and your wife are signatories of the Giving Pledge, and this is a pledge that was started by Bill Gates and Warren Buffett to give away the majority of your wealth for philanthropy. Tell me, after building up one of America's largest hedge funds and amassing great deals of money and wealth, why decide to give it away? How personal was it for you?
Well, so it all came about because in 1994, my son was 11 years old, and we sent him to a local all-Chinese school. He was the only foreign student in the school.
I heard it was Feng Chao Di.
Yeah, that's it. Right. And as a result, the teachers were unbelievably nice, and he fell in love, and he says that he became a little bit Chinese. He was there for a year, and then when he came back, when he was 16, he knew somebody who was adopting an orphan in China, and they were having some problems, and he went into the orphanage system, and he found out that most of the children were special needs children, and that for $500 he could save a life. And so he came back, and it was actually him who taught me all about philanthropy.
Tell me, how did you get involved in this project?
Well, Matt, my son's Matt, and he and I were realizing that we were bringing the money to China, but that there was a lot of money in China. But there wasn't an understanding of philanthropy. So we realized that we should really probably help to bring understanding. And Wang Zhenyao has known Matt for about 15 years because he was head of the Civil Affairs Bureau, which regulated orphans.
Right.
So they knew each other back then.
Okay.
And I asked Wang Zhenyao about, why don't we put together this institute to create the understanding? It was a logical thing. And that's what we decided to do. And then I asked Bill Gates to join me with the idea, really, that we wanted to make it a Chinese institution, not an American. That's how it came about.
I do feel that international media, in the last 10 years, there has been a lot of criticism out there of Chinese business leaders that they don't give for philanthropic projects, that they shouldn't be giving enough. How would you evaluate the state of philanthropic giving now here in China?
Well, I think it's probably emerging. I think it's become controversial.
Controversial in what sense?
Meaning, there was a bit of attitude, is it a form of corruption? There is somebody bad things happening. There's a certain amount of suspicion. It's not yet as well developed. These types of things are a mixture along with a lot of excitement. Like when my son Matt was speaking at Tsinghua University, there was a groundswell of young people who are excited to be able to be philanthropic and understand that. So I think that there's this tremendous potential, and yet it's a new thing. And I think it could go either way, I think we're at a moment in which if it's actively supported and there's greater understanding about it, I think it'll be a very powerful thing, because there's a lot of people who are making a lot of money. And I think this wealth gap is a challenging issue in and of itself. And I think yet it's a wonderful cycle for people to be able to make money and then give it back, because there's almost an ecology to that. So I think it's a special moment, particularly with the new legislation beginning to make it more effective. So when I came, it was I don't know, illegal.
Right.
I mean, when we came 20 years ago, it was a difficult thing to do, really. But it wasn't official. We just would give away the money. But now it's becoming effective. So I'm excited about it.
But how do you convince Chinese families of that? Because traditionally, Chinese families do like to keep the wealth within the family. How have your discussions been with some of Chinese?
I don't think anybody should be convinced. I think that they should just love it, just taste it like I did and start to experience it. And then also, I think, realize that there's also dangers for giving your family too much wealth. If you start to understand that, the most important thing to give your children, I believe, is strength and self-sufficiency. And wealth can undermine that. So, but it has to be a personal choice. It has to be a passion, I think. I think understanding will be the real changing influence.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dalio, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Very good. Perfect.
That was a great interview.
Yeah.
He was a very inspirational character. I know that he's worked with both of you at Chunhui, and also with all of the many projects that you work on.
Yeah, CGPI especially.
Yes.
He invited Bill Gates and the Chinese philanthropists. It's Niu Gensheng, He Qiaonu, Ye Qingjun, 3 philanthropists. They like a joint venture, CGPI.
Right.
Yeah, American and China. Really, design this structure. They said Chinese philanthropy, should developed by China, Chinese philanthropists. Then majority must be Chinese philanthropists.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's your advice for Chinese philanthropists? I know you work with the second generation of Chinese philanthropists, and we actually will have them here in the studio for our third segment. But do you have advice for them, or do you want them to make this their own?
Yeah, sure. I think it's especially in the next generation. Actually, they are our hope, the Chinese hope. They will play the leading role, especially the next generation of philanthropists. They will represent Chinese. But if I give them some recommendation, I must say they should be internationalized, learn from outside, not close our mind. They should learn from outside, especially the European or Americans experience.
Thank you so much, Dean Wong, for being here today. We're so lucky that there's somebody who's leading up China's philanthropy here. And thank you for being on Crossover and sharing your views.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we're going to touch upon another aspect of philanthropy in China, and that is in the business sector. When we come back, we'll talk about corporate social responsibility. Please stay tuned.
I still remember the first words she spoke after the surgery. She said, "Wow, I never have expected to have such a handsome father." Yeah, other than big founders in donations like Ray Dalio's case, 80%, if not more, from collaboration with corporations.
What I want to do is to make everybody on board, especially our second generation. I'm urging to saving the world.
Welcome back to Crossover. We're talking about philanthropy in China, and we're very lucky to be joined by Anthea from Jaguar Land Rover China. And Anthea, you're in charge of Jaguar Land Rover's corporate social responsibility program. Could you please tell us a little bit about it?
Well, first of all, very delighted to be here today. And in May 2014, in partnership with China Song Qingling Foundation, we founded Jaguar Land Rover China Children and Youth Dream Fund. We call it
dream. It's all about to realize your dreams and achieve your full potentials. So it's really dedicated in helping China's children and youth, and also to let them being able to enjoy happier and healthier lives. And we have a target for this Dream Fund. Over the 3 years, we aim to help to create opportunities for 200,000 children.
200,000 children.
Huge.
Wow.
And I know it's quite a large fund. It's a $50 million fund over 3 years. And you've already made some tremendous impact with the children of China. We have a video clip. Let's take a look.
Sure.
我的名字叫麦丽乃，我是个维吾尔族小姑娘。长大了，我的梦想就是想当一个老师。
我叫若山古丽，我9岁了。
如果没有那次事故的话，我觉得我会是一个就是各方面就是做更加优秀的一个人吧。我想跟他说，谢谢你的眼角膜，我会让他继续的在我眼睛中就是成长下去。
It sounds like it's not only about giving money, but it's getting your employees involved in the CSR program as well. Why is CSR so important to your company?
Well, first of all, the video we just saw is about Land Rover Never Stop Caring Journey for Vision program. The girl we just saw in the video is called Mai Dinai, a very beautiful 12-year-old Uyghur girl who recently received cornea transplant of Land Rover Journey for Vision program. And before the operation, she was totally blind. And I still remember the first words she spoke after the surgery. She said, "Wow, I never have expected to have such a handsome father." Yeah, that moment was mixed with laughter and tears, and which really motivated us to keep helping children.
It's really about those touching moments, isn't it? The story, you know, where she wakes up and she realizes for the first time that her father was so handsome. You know, and I know, Cindy, you must have many of those stories with the children from Chunhui. Can you tell us one of the most touching stories from your organization?
Sure.
I'm sure you can't pick one.
Yes. Sure. The story that we would like to share and we love the most is a child who was actually about to get adopted for life by a Spanish couple, but because the developmental delays suffered from lack of human touch, the adoptive parents actually thought that they couldn't communicate with her. So after a week, this adoptive parents actually very painfully had to send her back to the institution and said, we're really sorry, we love her, we wish that we could help her, but we couldn't. And so that was the time when our program went into that institution, and among all the local women that we trained, one of them who actually said, give me 4 toughest cases. This little girl was one of the 4. And within just few months, she went from not even being able to lift her head up. After a while, she probably just gave up. The whole time, you would see her head down in her little chair, and whoever moved her head up,
despondent,
she will drop down completely vacant. And so after this Chunhui mama, just tell her that you matter. I love you. Please talk to me. I'm here to help you. Just simply by giving her normal motherly love that we all take for granted. And then she started to learn how to talk, because there's no input, there's no output. She just completely turned around.
And physiologically, I mean, she started
everything
blossoming and energy. And
it's like you blow air to her body. She just became alive.
Can I suggest something? Can I make a match between Jaguar Land Rover and Chunhui children?
Sure,
right
we
here
have
in
the common goal. We all help the children.
We all want to develop children into their full potential.
Exactly.
How much do you rely on programs like CSR programs for what you do?
Other than big founders in donations like Ray Dalio's case, 80%, if not more, from collaboration with corporations.
Anthony, I wanted to ask you actually, CSR, I'm not that familiar with CSR. From what I understand, a lot of people do it. A lot of people aren't exactly sure how to do it or how it can bring benefits to the company. With Jaguar Land Rover, how much of your revenue is put into your CSR program?
Well, I think doing CSR has to be an integral part of our business, of what we can do in China. So we don't really determine the investment by revenue, but rather how much we can do, not just in terms of money, but also our time and skills, in order to really being able to make as big an impact as possible to improve the life of children. So the quality of the benefit is just as vital as the number of money we put into.
Right. You have a very mature approach to CSR, and I know CSR programs, especially here in China, they've just started to develop. I know, Cindy, you come from a corporate background, so I'm sure you've witnessed a lot of this as well. How are Chinese companies doing when it comes to their CSR programs? Because what I hear all the time is about multinational Chinese representative offices doing a lot of CSR work. Where are the challenges? I'm sure a lot of companies are coming to you and saying, how can we develop our CSR program? What's the challenge that they normally face?
My job is actually to encourage more Chinese donors, Chinese corporations to join us in on this journey. So I am personally trying to move our portfolio more from multinational companies to local corporations. And I have seen in the past 2 years many good changes happening. Let me give you one example. Whereas before, most Chinese companies have little trust in professional organizations such as ourselves. They would elect to do little grassroots projects on their own, but oftentimes it ends up being less efficient and it's less scalable. And more, there are local corporations start to cooperate with us, and the more they learn about what we do, the more they can trust us.
What about for people like us? Like, say I want to donate, but I don't know how. Do you raise awareness for average Joes and Janes as well?
Absolutely.
Let's see, give your donation amount now.
Well, the thing is, back home in the UK, you'd always hear about which charity you could donate to if you were interested in a particular illness, if you were interested in a particular cause. But here in China, it feels like the information is, I suppose, a bit harder to find.
It is beginning to develop. And the good news is that by technology, everybody is using their smartphones now. There are a lot of major online platforms to help people do just that. So just last year, we started exploring that platform donating or online crowd fundraising, aside from the traditional working with corporations or wealthy individuals.
Right. Today, I just got a WeChat. On WeChat, I received an article about children in Tibet, and I mean, a lot of people are just taking this and doing it from a grassroots point of view. And it was a parent from my child's school saying, let's raise money for this one school I went and I visited. There's definitely more power in coming together. There's definitely greater strength with greater numbers. All right, when we come back, we are going to be joined by two of China's second generation of philanthropists. But before we do that, I want to thank both of you so much for being here today. It's really been wonderful to hear the story of Chunhui children and to hear the impact that Jaguar Land Rover is making here in China.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Thank you.
This leads to a question: how does the first generation pass on their wealth to the next generation? So my father explored the answer in both the theory and the practice. I'm his biggest fan.
Me too. I am the biggest fan too. What I want to do is to make everybody on board, especially our second generation.
It's so clear that the two of you are so passionate about what you do.
And I'm urging to saving the world.
Hello and welcome back to Crossover, and we are now joined by two special ladies who are what we call the second generation of Chinese philanthropists. They are leading up and very involved in their families' foundations. They are He Lan and Isalai. Welcome to Crossover.
It's great to be
Thank
here.
you for joining us. Now, the two of you are friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
When did you meet each other? And
I guess.
Last year?
I guess it was in Shenzhen, right?
Yeah.
In September last year.
Yeah.
So we were at the same conference, and she was on the stage actually to talk about the family legacy.
Right.
And I was listening. So, and then after that, we became really close friends.
Right. Both of you are leading your family foundations and very heavily involved in the efforts and the programs that your foundation is involved in. It's really, I would imagine, a dream job. There are a bunch of others in this cohort of yours, and one of them is Niubin.
Yeah.
You're very familiar with Niubin, and Niubin is the son of the owner of Mengniu. Mengniu is a huge dairy company. Conglomerate, right, here in China. Let's take a look at what Niubin had to say about leading up and creating this foundation. Mr. Niubin, thank you so much for joining us on Crossover today.
Thank you. I'm so exciting.
Now, you are part of one of the leading family foundations here in China. Your father has a foundation called Lao Niu Philanthropy Foundation, and you have started a new one called Lao Niu Brother and Sister Philanthropy Foundation. Can you tell me about your foundation and what it's all about?
My foundation is set up in 2015. And I and my sister put in 1 million yuan.
1 million yuan each of you?
Yeah, each. We have 3 programs. One is a children care, 2 is young science innovation, and the last one is research and advocacy of family philanthropy.
You know, I mentioned before your father has a foundation called Lao Niu Family Foundation, and it's very famous throughout China. So why did you want to start your own? Why start Lao Niu Brother and Sister Philanthropy Foundation?
Well, 10 years ago, my father set up the Lao Niu Foundation. In 2011 and 2012, I and my younger sister take in part in the Rockefeller Philanthropy meeting, and it's so very exciting at that time. So we know Rockefeller family have 2 foundations. One is Rockefeller Foundation, and another one is the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation. At that time, I and my younger sister think of that. Why and my sister can't have my foundation.
So it was inspired by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation. That's an amazing story. And I could see now why the family legacy part of this is so important to you. And now, what has been the most difficult aspect of this foundation?
China is the philanthropy is I think the new business. So it's not more rules about that. So I think in China is very difficult things. It's about philanthropy law and rules. Now my work is in the rivers and how to cross the river. But later I think maybe it helps the next generation people think how which one is best for the philanthropy. They can have the A or B or C, many different things, different truths.
Well, Mr. Niu, it's really an amazing thing that you and your entire family has done for China, and I know it is setting a very good example of what a family legacy, a family philanthropic legacy can involve. Thank you so much for your efforts.
Thank you.
Well, it seems like in China as well as in the West, the biggest charity foundations are always family-owned. So, Helan, tell us a little bit about your foundation.
So, Qiaoniu Foundation, right? It starts from 2012, which was founded by my auntie, Miss He Qiaoniu. So, I'm really close to my auntie. So, when I was young, she always asked me, what do you want to do when you grow up?
You're still very young. So when you say when you're young, how old were you?
Little.
When you're little.
Right. So when I was a child, she asked me, what do you want to do to save the world? I mean, it's really...
Not many people can say that and actually...
I know, it's really big and
that.
It's vague. She said, be specific, how are you going to do that? I said, I actually have no idea. So after that, and after few years, she founded the Changni Foundation.
And what does the foundation do?
At the beginning in 2012, we actually donate not that much money, but to famous universities in Beijing, like Beijing University, Tsinghua University. We donate money for the university to do research and to do program to help the environmental protection.
Isilai, how about your foundation? It's called Huamin Charity Foundation.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Huamin Charity Foundation was founded in 2008, right after Wenchuan earthquake. My father, Dr. Lu, is the president. Since its establishment, I started to attend some philanthropic activities with my dad. And then I went to the United States for more training in nonprofit management and social work. 2 years ago, I just came back to China and started to work in our foundation.
Your foundation is one of the largest privately funded charitable foundations in China. Are you also focusing, like Helan, on environmental issues, or do you have a specific focus for your foundation?
Yes, Huamin Foundation focuses on educational and income inequality. Today, Huamin is 8 years old, and during these years, we've made a lot of achievements in like the theory building, research, policy advocacy, and the graduate employment, elderly care, and people with disabilities. In my family, there is another foundation called Lu Jiaxiang Charity Foundation, which was established by my grandfather, who focused on rural children education, rural healthcare, and disaster relief.
So you already have a family legacy of giving back to the community. You know, your grandfather started a foundation, your father started one. You went to the United States to study nonprofit management. And Helan, you've wanted to save the world since you were a little girl. You know, for both of you, you know, what or who inspired this type of thinking for you that you want to give back? Where did that inspiration come from?
My auntie. She is the one who inspired me the most because she is a really warm-hearted woman, and what she is doing right now in the company, our landscape, is to I can't say to save the world, but our strategy is heart to earth. So we do environmental protection, soil waste management, as well as the air pollution. We deal with those. So
those are big issues.
Yeah, those are really big issues, and it's hard to solve in the society right now. So actually, she inspired me a lot. So I was really lucky because when I want to save the world, and I know it's really hard, I don't know where to start. My auntie led me to that stage, and the really very big philanthropy group. All the famous people are in the group, like Rockefeller families and Huamin Foundation.
So it's a very important part of what she wants to do, and it's a very important part of her business.
Yes,
is the philanthropy.
For sure, yeah. Because sometimes when you don't have enough power to do it in business, you can actually do it in philanthropy. But sometimes you don't have enough time you don't have enough money to do the work in philanthropy. You can actually do it in business. So actually our business is doing philanthropy too, I guess.
So it works together.
Yeah.
One thing that inspired me the most is probably my father, of course. He has a systematical theory and on philanthropy. He sees the collective sharing of capital as an inevitable trend of human society. So I'm inspired by his efforts, and I'm his biggest fan.
Me too. I am the biggest fan too. I read her father's book. Yeah.
What did you learn from his book?
a lot. How to save the world. Well, he's looking forward, and he knows how to do it right. Because a lot of people in China right now, they want to do philanthropy, but they don't know how to do it and how to collect everybody together. So I really admire your father.
Thank you.
It's not just about wanting to save the world, but you need to have rules and a guidebook.
Right,
for saving
definitely.
the world.
Right,
Yeah.
and bring people together to
Sure.
to share a common goal. Right.
Yeah.
And what sort of philosophies did your father write about? What sort of guidelines do you need to build a good philanthropic venture?
Today, China is in a historical transition period. The first generation wealthy individuals emerged during the past 30 years, and my father is one of them. So this leads to a question: how does the first generation pass on their wealth to the next generation? So my father explored the answer in both the theory and the practice. In practice, he just founded Harming Foundation, and in theory, he raised the ideas of the spirit of capital and the collective sharing.
The two of you are very young in age, but very mature in your life philosophy, I think. How do you encourage other people of your generation to give? You know, how will you do that? Because it's not only about a few families and their family foundations, it's about, you know, a generation and young people really wanting to give back to the community. Do you have any ideas? How should we do that?
Actually, I do it by myself for sure. And sometimes if you talk with your friends, they will be influenced by you, and they will think you are doing it right, so I am going to do it. That was when I was in Hawaii this year, the third East-West Philanthropy Summit, and I came up the idea GPFA. GPFA, it's called Global Philanthropy Family Alliance. So what I want to do is to get all the famous family or successful family foundations in the world. For example, Rockefellers and the Rothschild, as well as the Gorlan or Hermes. They all have 6 or 7 generations. So if you collect all of them together on board, we will have enough information. Not enough, but a lot of information sources to do different areas of jobs. And what I want to do is to make everybody on board, especially our second generation, because you're maybe third generation.
Sulai is the third generation, right?
So all as well as New Ben, we will collect everybody on board, and then because young people, they have new ideas to do philanthropy job, because
and you have a lot of energy. You're on your way to save the world. There's always room for collaboration, and we all know that 1 + 1 is not only 2. It's much more than that.
For sure.
It's so clear that the two of you are so passionate about what you do.
And I'm urging to saving the world.
I will look out for that. I'm going to wait for that, that news flash where Chinese female philanthropists save the world. I want to thank both of you so much for being here with us today. It's really been a treat to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to our viewers at home for tuning in with us today. We'll see you next weekend on Crossover. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.